Welcome back to Peril Pending, and today we're going to listen to Robert Jenrick make a fool of himself on the radio. Yes, it's all Reform MPs are good for these days, playing the victim, crying and embarrassing themselves by lying on the radio, social media, the TV, really whoever will have them. Today we're going to look at a couple clips from the Radio 4 show where Robert Jenrick seems to get progressively more unhinged as his lies are held to account and he has to find some way to jump his brain through the hoops for it all to make sense. Let's get into it.
I do think that politics comes into this because it seems like the government,
well, let's be clear what that politics
are
is.
Very, very blasé about the security of reform.
I want to be clear what your charge is. Sorry, I'm only interrupting you for clarity, actually, here, because you're saying there's something political here. Richard Tice said something pretty extraordinary the other day. It's as if someone in the establishment wants us dead. I mean, are we to take seriously the suggestion that Reform UK politicians believe, and let's give another quote, what Zia Youssef, your colleague, said the other day, none of the government, the Speaker, nor the police care at all about the security of Reform MPs. That is an extraordinary charge. Have you any evidence to back that up?
Well, look, Reform MPs are not asking for special treatment. What Reform MPs want is to be able to go home to their family at the end of the day in safety and to know that their homes and their loved ones are protected. There is a legitimate concern that the Reform MPs are more endangered than many others because we raise issues that many mainstream politicians shy away from. You know, if you talk about Islamist extremism, as I do, and Nigel Farage has done for many years, you are likely to be in considerably more danger than those who don't.
Well, you can't say that, Mr. Jenrick. There's no evidence for that at all. There's a threat from the far right in this country. Ask Diane Abbott if she was in that seat. Ask the family of Joe Cox.
Many
there
MPs,
are people on all sides of politics who become a target.
Most MPs receive abuse. Many receive threats. I do think Reform MPs are more endangered than most. And go back to the example I just gave you. Nigel has called the small boats crisis a national security emergency for years. A small boat migrant is now in jail for threatening to kill him. So there is evidence to back this up.
Wow. Okay, so claim number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There was a lot going on there. First, let's tackle the point about the establishment wanting to get rid of him. Well, that's a little odd because as the newspaper has revealed, links to both articles I'll be talking about are below, and of course a link to the full Radio 4 show too if you want to listen to it. The newspaper revealed that Farage did have taxpayer-funded security as an MP until it was reviewed last year. So last year he had security. The year before that he had security. And he would have continued to have that security. But he declined a new protection package offered to him following that review because he believed it wasn't adequate and a downgrade on the security he had prior to it. Well, Nigel, this is taxpayer funded, okay? So you can't try and claim that there is so much waste and so much useless government spending, but then you're not happy when your security gets cut. Don't you already have $5 million for security for the rest of your life? Do you not think that might have played into the decision? Maybe we could save the taxpayer a bit of money. No. That can't be because, well, that $5 million for security was probably a lie. The eye goes on to say that no comparative data on the volume of no comparative data on the volume or severity of threats received by Reform politicians relative to MPs from other parties has been published by the police, the Commons, or any other named body. So again, Jenrick trying to claim that Reform MPs are targeted more than any others. I mean, it's already pretty obvious because Joe Cox and David Amos were murdered, and we will get onto that. And nobody from Reform has been murdered. Of course, what's happening with Anne Widdecombe is live, and it has not been chalked up to be political at the minute. Doesn't mean it might not be, but unlike everybody in Reform, I'm not going to say it is because I don't have the evidence. All I can say is there's no data to back up your claim, I know Jenrick there kept saying there is because, look, we received a threat from somebody and now he's in jail. It's like, okay, well, like you just admitted, many MPs get threats. The Reform UK leader was offered the protection following police advice on the threats he faced. He's been offered protection from police advice and he's been offered protection from the House of Commons and he turned it down. I think it's the same. It's in reference to the same security package, but he turned it down even against police advice. And one parliamentary source claimed that Farage was unhappy with the offer as he wanted security at the same level as the Home Secretary, who has one of the highest levels of protection among government ministers. Of course, this was denied as false by a Reform spokesperson who said the leader did not make specific requests. Farage isn't much of a reliable source, and neither is anybody in Reform, so I'm going to go ahead and believe the parliamentary source. It very much sounds like something Farage would do. Let me know in the comments below if you think that's the case. I personally think it is. But before we get onto the next Unhinged clip, where Jenrick seems to get real hot and bothered under the collar about being pulled up on a few bits, let's just focus back on this for 2 seconds. This is Nigel Farage here, against what Jenrick just said there, basically saying he wants special treatment. You are just a political party. Admittedly, you seemed at the time to be a popular one. That seems to be going off a cliff edge right now. But you are not the opposition. You are not the sitting government. Why do you think that the taxpayer should flip a bill equal to what the sitting Home Secretary gets, on top of the £5 million that you said would cover your personal security for the rest of your life, as well as the £1 million and more Reform supporters, according to you, Nigel Farage, were allegedly paying for your security per year? Why should the taxpayer flip that bill? It's like you want special treatment. But to go on to to remind everybody about what happened with Joe Cox, again, because Reform don't want special treatment, and Reform are apparently being targeted by the establishment, who they still won't define yet. I guess it's Count Binface. When Joe Cox was murdered by a man who it's claimed was radicalised by the anti-immigration rhetoric of Brexit, remember a campaign that just the other week Farage took credit for, all MPs, rightly, got a boost in security. And when David Amess was murdered by an Islamic State sympathiser, Jenrick, you claimed that it was only you and Farage who apparently is at threat. David Amess actually got stabbed to death. And after that, all MPs were offered additional security, especially when holding surgeries. In both instances here, for Joe Cox and for David Amess, it was cross-party. Every single MP got boosted security, got a review into boosted security, and of course, specifically in the case of David Amess, were offered security when holding surgeries. With Anne Widdecombe, when she was murdered, Reform UK got immediate 24-hour protection. Just Reform UK. There is a cross-party security review in place, but at the minute, as of recording this video, there's nothing tangible for anyone other than Reform. So you are getting special treatment. The establishment is clearly only helping you. So what does that say? Well, it says that Jenrick, like every other Reform MP recently, is talking out his arse, and it honestly looks like they are trying to use the murder of Anne Widdecombe to score political points, and it's disgusting. Now let's have a look at our second clip.
You've said that.
Posting. I do think it was wrong that parts of the media claimed that Nigel was politicising the death of Anne Wood. It's an appalling claim when he was in fact mourning the death of a loved colleague, and he has been vindicated now because the police have admitted that the murderer may well have had a terrorist or political motivation. And Jonathan Hall, I'll just say, Nick, the government's independent reviewer of terrorist legislation, has chastised the police in strong terms, saying they broke the golden rule of investigations. They shouldn't have closed down the idea that this may have been a politically motivated.
So in the last few minutes,
Robert
Jenrick, are you going to let me ask a question? Go on. Just why not?
Go for it, Nick.
Because otherwise it wouldn't be an interview, would it, if you just gave a speech? Shall we? Thank you.
Jenrick put in his place there. Pathetic. Pathetic. Like every other Reform MP, this is absolutely pathetic. Cry, cry, cry. And you are very clearly using the murder of a colleague to score political points.
In the last few minutes, you have attacked the media, you've attacked the police, you've attacked the government, you've attacked the Speaker, you've attacked the establishment, who apparently want someone dead in the Reform Party. What do you say to those?
That's still just, apologies for starting this part, but that's still just the wildest claim there from Richard Tice. That the establishment, which, by the way, they still haven't defined, apart from saying that it's apparently every single political party led by Count Binface, they want someone in Reform dead. Someone in Labour died because of Brexit rhetoric. Someone in the Conservatives died because of Islamist extremism. So far, nobody in Reform has died. Anne Widdecombe has been murdered. She was not a Reform MP. And so far, we don't know what the motivations were. Reform are a disgusting joke, and they're only clinging on to this horrible incident because, well, as the presenter's about to say, it distracts from the £5 million donation and everything else involving Posh George that Reform would really like everybody to forget.
As you say, yes, this is a terrible tragedy, what happened to Anne Widdecombe. We don't actually know why she was murdered yet. We don't even know if she was murdered because of her connection with Reform UK. It could be an individual, personal view she took. Could be. None of this is clear until the police complete their investigation and there is a trial.
Well, Nick,
but it does, I'll just finish the question if I may, but it does suit you and Nigel Farage to change the subject nationally from the fact that Mr Farage took a vast donation of £5 million from someone living abroad and he wishes to connect that with his security when in fact it has nothing to do with it at all. It's about a breach of parliamentary rules.
Nick, I didn't just attack the Speaker, for example. You just read off, I watched you, a pre-scripted final question to me, which you seem to have written before I had even said the piece I did over the course of the interview. There is no such
question on the paper. There is a quote from Zia Youssef, which I read out to you, Mr. Jenrick.
The point I'm making is that the government chose not to give Nigel the security that he needed. They now have, as a result of Anne Widdecombe's appalling murder, offered him a meeting. The Home Secretary could have offered that meeting a year ago, 2 years ago. She chose not to. That, I'm afraid, is playing politics with the safety of politicians, and I suspect that's because they don't like the views the Reform politicians take forward.
That's insane. That's absolutely crazy. So, Farage did have security, and then he declined it, which is wild because at the very least, wouldn't some security be better than no security? The only reason I can see for him to decline all the security would be so that they could cry like this and that they could get their message out about how he wasn't given security, and that would make its way around the world before the actual truth came out. That's the only thing I can see here. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, but that's the only theory I've got, because obviously now the truth's out, and once again, like everything else, with George Cottrell, with Christopher Harborne, with pretty much everything Farage has ever said, it was a lie. And also, with regards to having that interview, why would the Home Secretary have given that that opportunity for Nigel Farage to speak with the independent security evaluation team a year ago. Why? He had security at the time, or he actually I don't know what the crossover period was like, because obviously a year ago was when they were changing it. So I assume he would have had it, and they would have said, "Hey, we're going to renew it, but it's going to be renewed at a lesser level." Because obviously the independent investigation has found that you're not as much of a threat now. And also, you've just told us you've got £5 billion for security, so why would you need the taxpayer to flip the bill? Maybe we can give them a break? Oh, no. No. You don't actually care about the taxpayer. You want the same level of security as the Home Secretary. But there's no threat yet. Now, there is a threat. That's why now there's an evaluation. Either Jenrick understands this and he's been told to go out there and lie. Jenrick understands this and he's taking the initiative and he's lying, because we know how they love that in reform. Or Jenrick is an idiot. And honestly, any one of those could be true. What do you think?
Because we are not mainstream politicians. We are politicians who are fighting the establishment every single day. And we're not backing down, Nick.
Thank you very much indeed. Very.
Yeah, well, you heard it there. Robert Jenrick, multi-millionaire, ex-Tory who was in the government for the past 14 years, who's also in a party with Suella Braverman, ex-Tory, very, very rich, who was in the previous government for the past 14 years. Andrea Jenkins, I don't know what her financial status is like, but she was in the last government for the past 14 years. Who else? Richard Tice, multi-millionaire. Who's known the aristocrats of Cottrell for 50 years. His family goes back with them. Zia Youssef, incredibly rich man as well. Not an MP, he's an unelected bureaucrat. And, of course, Nigel Farage, multi-millionaire, wants the taxpayer to flip the bill for him, thinks he should have special treatment, unlike every other party. Mr. 5 Properties. Yes, you guys are anti-establishment and fighting against the government every single step of the way. Okay, that's got to be one of the most hilarious things. Like, I feel like Jenrick panicked and he was like, oh, bugger, the interview's closing off. I wanted to say so much more. I wanted to make Daddy Farage happy. Just word salad, vomit. Because that's ridiculous. Jenrick, you're a Tory. You were part of the last government that was here for 14 years that caused pretty much every single problem that we have right now. And how are you anti-establishment when you're all pro-Brexit? I don't understand that. Try and get a politician to say something bad about... try and get a politician who's currently in power to say something bad about Brexit. Just tell the truth. They won't. They won't, because that line won't get them further power. Being pro it will, even though it's dreadful for the country, and you guys are all pro it. But those are just my thoughts. Please leave yours in the comments section down below, and I'll catch you next time while the peril's still pending.